Neon White is a game about going fast. Boom, that's it. Video's over. Get out of here. Alright. Maybe that's not exactly it. Maybe Neon White is a game with a story about sinners plucked from hell to do God's dirty work, and maneuvering around and optimizing routes through level design and enemy placement. But that's just too long to say, so it's about going fast. I think my first introduction to this game was through AlphaRad, or someone playing it, and I thought, the game looks cool, but I would never play a speedrunning game myself. That'd take all the fun out of it. One of those statements was true. I wanted to use this video to really just showcase my experience with this game and explain why I like it, and I think if anyone else has been holding off on playing it, you should. Now, first of all, the story is like, whatever. The main draw here is like the gameplay and whatnot. They already knew people weren't necessarily going to be playing for the story, so there's this big button at the top of your screen that allows you to skip forward through the dialogue and get right into the action, which doesn't really change much, besides not knowing who this green guy is. We can just call him the Mask whenever he shows up. Getting into the game itself, though, pretty much every level does a great job at subtly explaining the mechanics of the game to the player, so that the further you get, the more skilled you are, even to the more complex levels. For example, level 1 is called Movement, and that's literally all it's about, teaching you the movement of the game. You start on this high up area, and after walking through some water and seeing some level geometry, you make it to this weird crystal pillar thing that, like, signifies the end of each level, just like that big ring in Sonic. Seriously, I've played this game for nearly 100 hours, and I have no clue what these are actually meant to be. Anyway, after you beat a stage once, some things change if you hit that restart button. Firstly, a ghost is added, a transparent image of your best attempt at the level, encouraging you to beat it. Think of like Mario Kart. And secondly, a yellow hand will show up to give you a hint on how to beat the level faster. On movement, this hand guides you off of the actual level geometry and instead tries to show the player that walking on water is much, much faster, allowing you to more than likely get a better time. Times are actually ranked in this game with the medal system. You're rewarded for your performance with a hint, and also in hub ranking of your skill. But there's one tier of medal above the rest that doesn't change much except show that you were part of the best, the Employee of the Month, the Red or Dev medal. These are secret medals that have no actual bearing on achievements or anything, besides showing what the developers were able to get before the game came out to a group of bloodthirsty speedrunners that could tear those times to shreds. Like the other medals, these exist for every level in the game, including the few boss fights therein. To be straightforward, I had to look up almost all of these in order to get the times. Sue me, call me a fake, a cheetah, dream from Minecraft, but ultimately the skill that is required to execute some of these times is still enough that I think it's fair to look into them. Also, a lot of my times only barely scratch past them anyway, so I'm not crowding on speedrunner tech, don't worry about that. There is one more challenge that really puts a bow on everything: the level rush mode. This is a side mode of the game not pertaining to the story or able to impact your times on levels in any way, but rather offering unique challenges to overcome, like beating a series of side levels all in a row, or the most daunting, beating every standard level in the game in one run. It's important to note here that there are two variations of each: the Heaven and Hell versions. The Heaven versions are very easy and fun to just step in and try it out. Essentially, you go through the list of every level they have for whichever level rush you choose, and you can die or restart individual levels as many times as you want and see what your final time would be. It's pretty stress free since you can't really lose a run, and ultimately just neat to see how long it would take different people with varying experience in the game. On the other hand, there's the Hell Rush, what I personally consider to be the hardest thing in the game. and I did go get all the dev times before trying. It's important to note, I am, self-admittedly, not a speedrunner at all. I've never submitted a run for any game, and none of my times on any of these levels are close to the top. That said, I wanted to push myself to grind for it, to beat the challenge of White's Hell Rush, beating all 96 levels in the game in one run with one life and 3 mistakes to make. Oh, I haven't mentioned those yet. Whoops. Yeah, the game gives you a few get out of jail free cards whenever you find yourself in a bad situation, since the run is so long. Pretty much every level in this game can be soft lockable too if you run out of ammo or certain weapons or just fall in the wrong spot, so having this is honestly super nice. I'm sure for speedrunners out there that are super cracked at this game, they just use them to make certain levels unintentionally faster by just spawning a rocket launcher or the book or something, but who cares? This is the common man, the straight up witty guy. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a minute. Basically, this game has a lot to offer, especially if you are competitively driven, since each level and level rush shows you your times compared to your Steam friends and people around the globe. Unfortunately, oftentimes the top few runs of the global category seem to be illegitimate, but recently there's been some crackdown from the devs, so good on them. This video isn't really about much. I don't really have a lot to say. In some ways, I wanted to put out a love letter to this game because I think it's one of the GOATs, and I hope the team over at Angel Matrix continue to make more games in the future. In another sense, I wanted to express how much time and effort and myself I've put into this game. I'm sure there are many more skilled players out there that have way, way more hours in this game and are still dedicated to running it and finding new tech and are part of the community. But as just a guy that really likes indie games and felt a connection with this one, my journey over the last few years since it came out to do everything in it journey over the last few years since it came out to do everything in it has been long, frustrating, and rewarding. There's no equal feeling to when I finally finished White's Hell Rush and just got to sit there, relish in the moment, and my horribly slow time. And then realize I still had to do the Mikey Rush. Play Neon White, support indie devs, subscribe, etc.